Good day to all our viewers, and a very warm welcome to the Sussex Ambassador channel. We're here to delve into the compelling world of Meghan Markle, shedding light on her experiences and triumphs. Our mission? To debunk myths, challenge critics, and celebrate the woman who continues to inspire many across the globe. If you haven't already, do subscribe to our channel for regular updates and insightful content. So, without further ado, let us dive into today's topic. Meghan Markle, an influential figure, has been under the spotlight for quite some time now. A woman of grace, beauty and intellect, she has won hearts worldwide. Yet there are those who seem to be persistently critical of her, often casting her in an unfavourable light for reasons that, upon closer inspection, seem to be rooted in bias more than fact. Now let's take a step back for a moment and look at the larger picture. Meghan Markle, an accomplished actress, philanthropist and advocate for social justice, took on an entirely new role when she married Prince Harry. She embraced this role with open arms and an open heart, becoming a member of the British royal family and a global ambassador for the United Kingdom. However, this transition was far from smooth. Meghan found herself under intense scrutiny from the British press and public, a scrutiny that seemed to intensify with each passing day. The media circus was relentless and the public criticism often cruel and unnecessary. It was as if Meghan was constantly under a microscope, her every move dissected and analysed. Among her critics, three individuals stand out: Piers, Katie Hopkins and Camilla Tominey. These prominent figures have been vocally critical of Meghan, often using their platforms to spread negativity and fuel the ongoing controversy around her. Their criticisms, while disguised as concerns for royal protocol and tradition, often reek of personal bias and prejudice. Piers, a well-known broadcaster, has made no secret of his disdain for Meghan. Katie Hopkins, a controversial media personality, has used her platform to spread harmful narratives about Meghan. And then there's Camilla Tominey, a prominent editor at The Telegraph, who has consistently denied that Meghan's treatment by the British media and public has anything to do with race. But what is the root cause of this controversy, you ask? Let us delve deeper. The treatment Meghan Markle receives from the British press and public spaces is deeply concerning. This bright, accomplished woman, who has graced the world stage with her charm and philanthropy, has faced an onslaught of public attacks that are not only unwarranted but also tinged with racial undertones. The disturbing truth in this scenario is the continual denial by critics of the racial bias Meghan has experienced. As we delve deeper into this issue, it becomes clear that Meghan's critics are not merely denying her experiences, but are actively participating in a kind of racism denial. They refuse to acknowledge the racial attacks she has faced, choosing instead to twist the narrative to fit their own perspectives. And in doing so, they downplay or outright dismiss the systemic racism that is unfortunately still a part of British society. This denial is not just an attempt to discredit Meghan's experiences, but it is also a way to maintain the status quo, to avoid confronting the uncomfortable truth of racial injustice. These critics choose to turn a blind eye to the racial bias that Meghan has faced, dismissing it as exaggeration or misinterpretation. They argue that Meghan's struggles are unrelated to race, ignoring the glaring evidence of racial discrimination that is apparent to those who choose to see. And this is where the real danger lies. This denial of racism not only invalidates Meghan's experiences, but also perpetuates the systemic racism that continues to exist in our society. By refusing to acknowledge the racial bias that Meghan has faced, these critics are indirectly supporting and perpetuating a system that discriminates based on race. But who are these critics, you wonder? Let's shed some light on them. A prominent figure among these critics is Camilla Tominey, an editor at The Telegraph. Tominey's critique of Meghan Markle goes beyond mere commentary. It's a dismissive denial of the racial attacks that Meghan has consistently faced. Tominey is no stranger to controversy. Her views, often expressed through her platform at The Telegraph, have sparked debate and criticism. Yet what stands out in her critique of Meghan Markle is her refusal to acknowledge the racial undertones in the public's treatment of Meghan. Instead, she paints a picture of a public that has warmly welcomed Meghan, a narrative that starkly contrasts the experiences shared by Meghan herself. In interviews, Tominey has repeatedly claimed that Meghan's struggles are unrelated to race. She downplays the instances when Meghan has been targeted with racial slurs and instead focuses on portraying Meghan as a divisive figure who has brought upon herself the criticism she faces. In doing so, Tominey not only dismisses Meghan's lived experiences, but also contributes to the silencing of discussions on racism within British society. Furthermore, Tominey has been dismissive of Prince Harry's comments on unconscious bias. When Prince Harry defended Meghan by highlighting the presence of unconscious bias in society, Tominey was quick to dismiss his claims as exaggerated. This approach fits into a broader white-centered narrative that often downplays the impact of racism, perpetuating a cycle of denial and dismissal. It's important to note that Tominey's views do not exist in a vacuum. They are part of a larger narrative that seeks to deny and downplay the existence of racism, particularly in the context of Meghan Markle's experience. By refusing to acknowledge the racial undertones in the public's treatment of Meghan, these critics contribute to a culture that allows racism to persist unchallenged. Tominey's views are not only biased, but also dismiss the reality of racial injustice. It's crucial that we continue to challenge these narratives and shine a light on the systemic racism that persists in society today. This issue is not just about Meghan Markle, it's about a bigger systemic problem. This isn't merely a story about one woman's experience, but a reflection of a much larger societal issue: racism denial. The refusal to acknowledge the existence of racial prejudice is not unique to Meghan Markle's critics. It's a widespread phenomenon, an insidious form of racism that operates under the guise of neutrality. This denial can be as harmful as the racism itself, as it seeks to invalidate the experiences of those who are targeted and undermines efforts to address and rectify these injustices. What we see in Meghan Markle's case is the manifestation of this denial in its most public and damaging form. The refusal to acknowledge the role of racism in the harsh treatment she has received is a stark reminder of how deeply ingrained this denial is in our society. It's a denial that creates an environment where racial bias can thrive unchecked and unchallenged. But we must remember that this isn't just about acknowledging the existence of racism. It's about recognizing the role we play, whether actively or passively, in perpetuating this systemic issue. It's about holding ourselves and those around us accountable for the words we use, the narratives we endorse, and the biases we harbor. Supporting Meghan Markle in this scenario goes beyond expressing solidarity for one individual. It's about standing against the forces of racism and denial. It's about challenging the narratives that seek to undermine and dismiss the experiences of those who face racial prejudice. It's about fostering a society that is not only aware of its biases, but is actively committed to dismantling them. We must remember that the fight against racism is not just about addressing the overt acts of prejudice we see. It's also about challenging the subtle forms of discrimination that often go unnoticed and unchallenged. It's about refusing to stay silent in the face of denial and indifference. It is time we stand against such denial and support the truth. It's time to recognize that racism denial is an integral part of the problem. It's time to take a stand. Not just for Meghan Markle, but for every individual who has had their experiences invalidated and their voices silenced. It's time we support the truth. We've covered some serious ground today, haven't we? We've talked about the ongoing public attacks on Meghan Markle, the racism denial by her critics, and the troubling twist of narratives to downplay the systemic racism that persists in British society. We've also highlighted the role of Camilla Tominey, a prominent editor at The Telegraph, in fostering this denial. This discussion is essential, not just for Meghan Markle's sake, but for all those who grapple with racism and its denial. It's not just about one person or one situation. It's about a broader societal issue, a systemic problem that needs to be addressed and rectified. It's about standing up against injustice, about challenging the status quo, and about fostering a society where everyone is treated fairly and with respect. We must remember that every voice counts. Every time we speak up against racism and its denial, every time we challenge the existing narratives, every time we extend our support to those facing such struggles, we contribute to a larger cause. We become part of a movement advocating for equality and justice. So, let's continue this conversation. Let's continue to stand against racism denial. Let's continue to support Meghan Markle and others who face similar struggles. Thank you for watching. Your support means a lot to us. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share. Until next time, this is Sussex Ambassador signing off.